Hello, this is my Turkish coffee time, and I have a special cup here and special Turkish candies. And so the thing is, until I have my coffee completed and it's cold, I'm gonna do your Turkish coffee cup reading. So that will take some time. So until that time, I'm also going to read you a verse or from pages that I'm supposed to read today. So I'll share that with loud reading. And then when the cup is ready to read a future, then I'll also do that. So it's just fun time a little bit for me this way. Okay, let's try. Thus, consciousness as Shakti, consciousness as creative power. Shakti means that the power, the action of that power, so all-pervading power. So the movability, let's say, creative movability, creation, the action part. Thus, consciousness as Shakti evolves mind and matter. So that's why. The principles, tattvas, of these are not always clearly understood. Like tattvas are, let's say, realities that appear to be because of such movement, the movement of consciousness, creative movement. They may and indeed must be considered from the point of view of evolution. Right. That is, according to the sequence in which the limited experience of the jiva is evolved, or from that in which they are regarded after creation, when the experience of concrete sense objects has been had. So the jiva imagines things to be concrete, right? Assumes a body and drinking, holding, and limited type of movement believed to be something. According to the former aspect, okay, we start from the middle, so we just try to understand what we hear, like a coffee chat. According to the former aspect, buddhi is the state of mere presentation. Consciousness, buddhi means intellect here. Consciousness of being only without thought of I, which is ahankara, that points at the ego sense, and unaffected by sensations, which is manas, indriya, mind, and its particulars, of particular objects, which ex hypothesi do not yet exist. So I read that sentence again without interruption. According to the former aspect, buddhi, the intellect, is the state of mere presentation, consciousness of being only without thought of I. So this refers to the before previous reading. So consciousness, buddhi, is the state of mere presentation, consciousness of being only without thought of I and unaffected by sensations, all right, of particular objects, which ex hypothesi do not exist yet. It is thus a state of impersonal jiva consciousness. Ahamkara, of which buddhi is the basis, is the personal consciousness, which realizes itself as a particular I, the experiencer. The jiva wakes the world experience under the influence of Maya Shakti. That is after having received a type of a covering uh, to limit itself to some kind of believed experiencer, not an all-pervading, that which separates object and subject, just as this movie here now seems to happen outside. Yet in the experience of truth, certain experiencers are there, which we could call in a plane of cause and effect, yet it is there before its cause has appeared, like that. So there is not that type of sensation of mind, time, a perception of time in truth. So the jiva wakes to the world experience under the influence of Maya Shakti. In the order of awakening, he first experiences in a vague general way without consciousness of the limited self, like the experience which is had immediately on waking after sleep. It then refers, which it had immediately on waking after sleep. Oh, there is a typo here, excuse me. It then refers this experience to the limited self and has the consciousness, I am so and so. Manas is the desire which follows on such experience, and the senses and their objects are the means whereby that enjoyment it had, which is the end of all will to life. Let me read that again. Manas is the desire which follows on such experience, and the senses and their objects are the means whereby that enjoyment is had. It should be right. That enjoyment is had, which is the end of all will to life. So it means life in limited sense, I guess. The cosmic mind projects its content as ideas. Yeah, that's what it means. And desires on the gross sensual plane. And there the individual mind enjoys them as such. All right. So now I drank it and I will turn it and I turn it around. And then we're going to wait till it gets cold and then I'm going to read the coffee cup. So until waiting, we continue. I may here observe that the same scheme exists in Buddhism, where the root is given as avidya, from which arises samskara. This gives birth to vijnana, which is buddhi, and then to namarupa. That is an external world at first vaguely perceived. The desire to take cognizance of this gives rise to the 6 sense organs. Shat ayatana, namely manas and the indriyas. From this follows Contact, sparsha, is a touch of the sense organs with the external world, giving rise to feeling, Vedana, called forth by such contact in the form of pleasure and pain. This experience produces desire, Trishna, which a recent work on the unconscious calls libido, for pleasant sensations resulting in attachment and enjoyment, upadana. And then the individual jiva, consciousness, bhava, is born, jata, ages and dies, and is again reborn until nirvana is attained. Throughout it is the will to life, the root of which is in avidya, which produces the instruments, namely the mind and senses, whereby enjoyment is to be had, and which creatively imagines the content of its experience from out of the store of past lives and past universes. True experience, therefore, can only be had by destroying the root, which is avidya. Okay, which makes sense. Let me read again that part after nirvana is attained. Throughout it is the will to life, the root of which is in avidya, which produces the instruments, namely the mind and senses, whereby enjoyment is to be had, and which creatively imagines the content of its experience from out of the store of past lives in past universes. True experience, therefore, can only be had by destroying the root, which is avidya. One of the tasks which yet remains to be done is to show the essential similarities of Buddhism and Hinduism instead of dwelling, as is usually done, on their differences, alleged or real. I agree. When it is fully realized that, and I agree on all disciplines which are similarly spiritual, anything that has the ability to express itself through words and dualistic talking is so. So this, from here, I would love to approach. From this point, I would like to approach to a theory that let's say, which I'm working on with regards to reality in the mathematical sense, and which involves the term generalization again in the mathematical sense. According to my hypothesis from my studies in yoga and dance and drawing, what I do generally, I came to this point years and years ago, and then with very big difficulty I could contextualize it or concretize it through the usage of words, because I know it, but it is very hard to explain it to words because of missing knowledge, technical knowledge, or other my language is not enough to tell it. Word treacherous is not enough to explain. So that's why it's very important to direct oneself towards the education which will be which one can communicate as if one is communicating to another, to the others in common language. And one should not forget that that which seems to be inherent or gnosis is on a plane where one functions as a talker, speaker. One is already on that gross plane. To oneself also should be clear, so that oneself as the speaker is also assuming a role which needs similar treatment in terms of enlightening, coming from the same speaker source. Different. But in any way, this kind of elucidation or elaboration brings elucidation through experimentation, which includes a part not trying to be here like the one who knows, but the one who learns from this talk. So researching, every moment is that belonging to the research. And there are levels. When you name it, there will be another name, a higher name that covers, because there is a name that will always be covered in a higher name, which eventually dissolves to its natural name, which is also discussed in this book. And one recognizes these concepts because one already knows, but one hasn't pronounced it in this beautifully structured, where language in truth, even dualistic language in truth, comes from. It is, in fact, language is created, in fact, through a pattern. Yeah, so through the gaps of the pattern, when it concretizes in a, which I can see in meditation, let's say, but then I cannot absolutely tell it in dualistic words. That's what I mean. So the creation of language is not incidental. It is always there. It's a level of consciousness. It's a level of concretization. Okay, almost cool, but we are also almost finished with that sentence. So one of the tasks which yet remains to be done is to show the essential similarities of Buddhism and Hinduism, beautifully said, instead of dwelling, as is usually done, on their differences, alleged or real. When it is fully realized that Buddhism took its birth in India and the implications necessary therein, truer notions will be entertained of it, then generally prevails. Okay, I will perhaps reread it again, but as promised, I'm going to read now this cup. Sometimes I'm forced to empty all the bottom, but in this case I'm not gonna do it because it's a recording. Okay, okay, so let me read. Wow, this is an amazingly beautiful cup. So I need to concentrate, but I see someone having reached a very high place, sitting there and having a conversation. It's a half animal, half human being. So it points out to some kind of avatar, a divinity, assumed divinity, with the awareness of its temporality, but as being the best form for that particular scene to happen or a moment to be achieved. Not as an achievement of in a personal sense, but in a cosmic sense of bringing wealth. Because the back is completely open. It's like sun. It's like water and sun unison. I can't explain the light. So it's light with many potentialities, especially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and across them is the reflection of them, of the inner and the outer worlds uniting to, as a totality, 7. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing cup. Amazing, beautiful cup. I see the number 7 at the bottom, letter A. Very beautiful. Okay, some alphabet letters. I guess a W, but it's a Sanskrit letter. I will I won't be able to read that, but okay, J and 5, perhaps. But these are, it's not about that. It's not about which letter, although it may point at an A and different types of A's, but it's about the totality it creates. It's a tree of life from all these letters. Where the root is the same as the top, which flows. Putting a shade on some kind of ground. Okay. From its reflection of its shade becomes ground. And ground, on that ground, a very long-haired, slim woman, girl, can stand up and taking an A from her heart and giving this, offering this as an offering from which a snake-like figure arises to lift up a bird that's correct, a wisdom, which means wisdom, correct wisdom. Wisdom is correct. Correct knowledge, to deliver this correct knowledge in speakable form that is understood by the divinity I explained first. So in cups, there's always, they connect. So in such reading, we always connect to beginning to end. So it's already there, you understand? Just like we are reading, it is already there, so it unites. In the dualistic way of speaking, then we also tell it that how such absolute moment, which is like unison. In number theory, we can say perhaps, like, I don't want to use the term 0 because not as a number, you understand? So it's that united completion in these cups. Also the shape is round. A lot of lightness. There is this lightness. Everything is happening from lightness. Even ground is being formed because of such lightness. Okay, I see it's almost like 30 minutes. And there is, it's being, the whole thing is being guided and by, by little flashes of that which can be insider and outsider. So guided and guarded, but they're manifestations, they're reflections. It's because they belong to the total unity, because there is the gate seems to be open, then you can see other dimensionality, the sign of the other dimensionalities. Very, very beautiful, full of grace, this. Okay, and I see a J. Or it's some kind of, it's making a mountain. The doors are open, the flow is there, lightness is there, very beautiful. And there is a whole alphabet here. It would be possible to read that, like a whole letter, even in the dualistic sense, but I won't do it. Time is not enough. And perhaps it needs a different type of connection, not like this one of mine, but so you need to spend the letters with your whole body, then you can read it. Not just enough to book study of learning a language, but your whole body has to be a part of it. So one can do this how? I may reveal that in another chat from my own experience. I can't say I do it, but this is a bit of a knowledge, perhaps that occurs to some of us, maybe through this kind of experience. I see a P also, but that's it then. So this is really great. And some people read also the cup, the plate, which I don't like, so it means nothing really. For me, I don't do it usually for pleasure, but it's like the daily, what's happening today in your heart. So the phenomenal part, they say this. And yeah, someone is a little dark, one taking shelter in its troubles and thinking that way. Usually troubles are our sanctuaries, that we build them around us. It's the mind that creates it all. But it's fine. Even though it's closed yet, it's a personal choice. And there's some collection of power again, taking a shelter there and collecting yourself, recollecting, and until like throwing away the blankets soon. All right. Thanks for listening and also motivating this talk. I never know where it starts and ends. It's always a surprise, a beautiful surprise for me. All right then.